There's nobody staying on the police. There's nobody who's working for this community. Education is so fundamental to succeed. Yeah, I proved that. My dad was a steel worker. He worked at Beth Steel for 42 years. He got cancer 3 years after he retired. You know, and that's, fortunately he made enough money that he was able to send me to college. You know, but that, how many of you are in similar situations? You've got to get education in order to succeed. Education is the key. And when I look at the schools in this area, I think there's so much more that needs to be done. You know, we've got to be able to protect our kids. We've got to be able to present quality educational programs. I taught at UMBC for 10 years in the political science program. I taught American government. I got to teach people about how government is supposed to work. I should also point out that I'm the first Republican to speak. Woo. I think jobs are crucial. I do a lot of criminal defense in my legal practice. I do things cheap for people, and I see how drugs and lack of education affect people. I see how that leads them to crime. I heard the other candidates talking about gangs being so appealing. Well, that's true. When you don't have an education, you don't have a chance to get a job that's going to be able to let you support your family. I think that's a problem. But I think a bigger problem is that Southwest Baltimore keeps getting ignored. I see all of the jobs coming in the eastern part of the county. Now, I see where Sparrows Point used to be, and lots of jobs coming there. I see everything happening on the eastern side of the county and nothing happening on this side. So I'm angry. I want to do something to help this side of town. I don't believe in the $15 an hour wage that I've heard the Democrats talk about, and here's why. When you have $15 an hour wages for people that are minimum, what does that do to the middle class? The middle class who aren't getting raises. State employees in this state haven't had a raise in 2 years, 3 years. It's been a long time since there's been a raise. So what does that do when people start making, and who are flipping burgers, are making $15 an hour, when all of a sudden their wages are being increased by 50%, from $7.25 an hour up to $15 an hour. What's that going to do? What's that going to do to the business owners who own the businesses? They're going to decrease the jobs. I've heard other parts talking that it's pure economics. You have to decrease jobs when you increase the cost of production. It's a no-brainer. I don't believe in ordering people who own property that they have to rent to somebody because the government says so. This country is built on life, liberty, and property. And when you have a liberty interest, you don't have the government telling you what to do with your property. I just don't buy into the whole argument that you have to rent to this person. No, you know, you don't. Drugs are a big problem. And I've personally seen lots of people involved in the drug situation. It starts out slow, and it goes to heroin. Heroin's cheap. And I don't see any effort being made to go after the dealers and putting them in jail. You've got to take the source of the drugs out of the community. That's what you've got to do. You've got to focus on police and policing. Immigration, I've heard talk about that. I'm in favor of having ICE work with local authorities to enforce immigration laws, and here's why. How many of your schools are overcrowded with people who aren't citizens? You know, how are you going to have a community that presents a quality education when you have 40 kids in a class?
Hey, if I can't
let them have a chance.
interrupt.
Please let every candidate continue, sir.
I think illegal immigrants are a big problem. The amount of money it costs our society. I heard the $5 million cost to the county. How much money is the county spending on education for illegal immigrants? It's taking away from the resource officers that we don't have, the psychologists. How many are being overburdened because of that? So, those are my positions. And I'm running for 1st District Councilman because I'm angry. I don't know if I'm out of time or not.
No, you have 1 minute. I get to ask you, one question. Considering of what you've articulated about the drugs that we see in the communities, share with us some things that you may do to try to mitigate the current opioid crisis.
Education is key. You stop somebody from using. I remember when I was working with the state's attorney's office in Baltimore City, I asked a young person, what made you stick a needle in your arm for the first time? Her response was, when I was 14, my mom, who was a drug user, wanted a hit, and she said to her user, or her dealer, I want a hit. And he said, well, you give me your money. And she said, well, I don't have any money. He said, well, let me have sex with your daughter. And the daughter was like, no. And the mother held her daughter down while the dealer put heroin into the girl's arm. That was the first time she stuck a needle in her arm. That can't exist, you know? How are we allowing people to have children who are putting them at such risk? We talk about the safety of our kids in schools. You want kids to succeed in schools, you help them at home. That's where education starts, really. Teachers are there to facilitate the parents, but it's the parents' job to raise the child, not the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Next, we have Mr. Tom Quirk. Councilman Tom Quirk.
How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you.
Great to be here.
Yep. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you're going to run again?
Great. Good evening. My name is Councilman Tom Quirk. I'm here tonight with two of my staff, Kathy Ingers, who helps me in the central part of the district, and Margaret Stokes, who helps me in the northern part of the district. They both do a great job, and I know a lot of you know them, and we're all out there a lot talking with all of you, so it's really good to be here tonight and have an opportunity to showcase my record. And I live in Oella with my family. I live right on Westchester Avenue, and my theme and my re-election campaign is the leadership we need, priorities that we share, and a record of results. And a little background, I'm a local small business owner. I'm a certified financial planner. I actually run a national company. It's an investment company with clients in 19 different states. I'm a father, most importantly. I have two kids, Teddy, who's a senior at Catonsville High School, and Sophie, who's at Catonsville Middle School. So both my kids are in public schools. And then I think I have a history of effective, results-oriented leadership in the community and on the county council. And I heard, it's kind of interesting, I have one opponent on the far right, one opponent on the far left. I'm sort of a moderate. And I think Southwest Baltimore County is generally a moderate district. But I did hear my opponent on the Republican side say that he doesn't think anything's happening in Southwest Baltimore County. And I couldn't disagree any more than that statement. I mean, to me, that's just a statement clearly. Let me just give you some of the record results, if I might. We're spending $317 million for our schools in Southwest Baltimore County right now. Of the $1.3 billion for the entire county, Southwest Baltimore County is getting a very decent amount at $317 million. We have new elementary schools at Catonsville Elementary, Relay Elementary, Westtown Elementary, Lansdowne Elementary, Chadwick Elementary, which is really important because Chadwick's going to help relieve the overcrowding at Johnny Cake, which we must do. We have an addition at Westchester Elementary. We just did air conditioning at Baltimore Highlands, Edmondson Heights, Arbutus Elementary, Arbutus Middle, Southwest Academy. All those schools just got air conditioning because, yes, we had a major air conditioning problem. But with my help from my colleague, Vicki Allman, who I support very strongly for county executive, we made sure we fixed air conditioning. And we also we're working on a substantial renovation at Woodlawn High School. We're putting over $45 million in Woodlawn High School. And we're also working on Lansdowne, initially for $60 million at Lansdowne High School. And we're hoping, if we can keep pushing, to get a brand new school at Lansdowne, because I disagree with the county executive. If Delaney High School should get a new high school. Well, Lansdowne should get a new high school because Lansdowne's in the worst shape of any high school. And so that's a position I did change, because if the county executive can find the money somewhere to build Delaney, well, if Cadillacs go in Delaney, well, Cadillacs should go in Lansdowne too. Not Chevys, Cadillacs for everyone. So inequity is really a problem. We got to make sure we address inequity. I think all kids should get the same treatment no matter where they live. And so let me address this issue that Catonsville gets everything. Well, I have the spreadsheets if anybody wants to look at them. I'm a numbers guy. I really do like math. And so Catonsville is getting, of the 317 million, Catonsville is getting 74 million of 317 million. North of 40 is getting over $90 million. So this community, you know, Woodlawn High School, for example, this community, Chadwick, this community, we're getting a lot of money here. And I'm glad we are. We got to keep fighting for more. So I'm very proud of the fact that we have 317 million coming into Southwest Baltimore County. There's a lot of positive stuff going on here. And I'm running because I want to continue that progress. We made a lot of progress, but we have more to go. Economic development, I completely disagree with my Republican opponent saying economic development is not happening here. That's the farthest thing from the truth. Everybody take a look at Kaiser Permanente. Over $100 million in Lansdowne. $100 million investment in Lansdowne. Guinness, over $50 million in Relay. Heavy Seas is expanding tremendously in this area. Frederick Road is about to be majorly revitalized with the Friendly's restaurant that has a new owner, with Plymouth Wallpaper that has a new owner. Arbutus is starting to come up. UMBC is located a nice place in Arbutus, so we're working hard in Arbutus. Security Square Mall. I'm working with a major investor that wants to revitalize all of Security Square Mall and has the plans to do, by the way. A billionaire that wants to revitalize Security Square Mall has the plans. We're just trying to get all 5 owners to agree, which is difficult, but it's not that we don't have the money. We have the money, we have the investor. We need to get the owners together, and I'm working on that. Fiscal responsibility. I chair the Spending Affordability Committee. I watch every single dollar. Hardly nobody in the community knows the budget or the capital budget better than I do. There's a few, but not too many. Environment, I challenge anyone on a debate on the environment. I have a very strong environmental record. I passed the Western Bike Plan. I passed the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I've downzoned hundreds of acres by the park. I've worked with great groups like Neighbor Space. I see my friend Klaus Philipson in the back. We work really closely together. The Patapsco Heritage Greenway. I work together closely with Councilman John Weinstein. We're working on a big plan for the parks right now. Catonsville Rails to Trails. I love Catonsville Rails to Trails. We help with the short line. Public safety. I think a theme that I've heard over and over and over, which I completely agree, is opioids is a big problem. A big problem not only in the county, in the state, in the nation. And so we worked together with Wilkins Police and Community Relations Organization, brought together the community in Arbutus, had a really good public meeting. And a lot of people came because it's a big issue. We set up a task force to review all the actions the county's taken. What can we do differently working together, not only with other counties, but the country as well. And I'm very active communication with Kathy, the Wilkins and Woodlawn precinct. Just recently in Lansdowne High School, we had a problem with some kid on Snapchat putting some pictures out there, really scaring a lot of parents. I was immediately on the phone with the chief of police. We were working through that issue. The following morning, we had police everywhere, and there were a lot more investigations. So, you know, this is not something that I do, 10%. This is something I do 100% all the time. You know, and I challenge anybody to discuss any of this record, because this record's really good. We've come a long way, and I want to make sure we continue that progress. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom. I heard you talk about the bike zones and parks. Can you extend a little bit more back to a question I asked earlier about the children and youth outside of public education, outside of the schools? Can you expand on how these types of things and what that will do to actually help support services and additional things for students to do outside of school time?
Yeah, I think it's so important that we continue to engage our kids. And what better way than the parks? I mean, Southwest Baltimore County is really lucky because we have the Patapsco State Park right in our backyard. Literally, many of us can just take a bike right down the street and be in the parks. And so I think engaging our kids in lots of different programs and activities, especially programs and activities where they interface with the police and they see police out on the streets, they get to know them as trusted friends and people they can talk to when there's problems. And I also think that we need to do more with our community centers. One thing that's high up on my priority list is the old Cagesville Elementary, not the new one, but the old one that's now an administrative building, is to eventually find enough money where we can make sure we have more community centers and activities going in that building. It's actually a fairly big price tag, but I'll be working with our next county executive on that when money becomes more available. We're pretty tight in the fiscal budget right now, but I also think if you look at Crosby and Rolling, I would love to see a more expanded community center, by Enrico. That's another place I would love to see one, because I would love to see basketball courts, indoor basketball courts. So that's another thing that's high up on my party list. So I'm running because there's so many things that I haven't accomplished yet. We've come a long, long way, believe me. But there's so many things we haven't accomplished yet that are on my to-do list. I know I can make it happen. So that's a great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, we're ready to move on. Miss Stephanie Boston. Nope.
You still have some count.
I'm maybe missing a name. I don't have their names. Did they respond?
Surprise, surprise.
Okay, thank you, Miss Stephanie. Great. Is there another delegate, Mr.? Okay.
My name's Derek Burnett. Do I have to sit down?
You don't have to.
I love standing up talking.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to.